where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Merris.
Hello.
For it is Merris Monday.
Hooray.
And you might be saying, Lillian, why did you not record a regular Cruelty Podcast episode last week? Well, I have a couple reasons for you. One, my allergies have destroyed my life. And two, me and Willow's schedules were bad.
Bad.
I had to go to the airport. I had so much stuff I had to... Oh, God.
It's just too much stuff.
It was just too much stuff. But do not fear. We're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, I want to talk about something.
Okay.
I don't know if y'all remember,
Mm-hmm.
like when Missing 411 shit came out. It was like, what year was it?
It was early 2000s, I want to say, because I was here for it on
No,
the
it
Coast
wasn't
to
early
Coast AM.
Well, it wasn't early 2000s. I would say it was like about 2011, 2012.
Okay, so mid.
Mid.
Okay, but I was into it. It was on the coast.
I
It
was like,
big
fucking
paranormal
and I was like,
news.
oh my God.
Oh, it was so good.
This is something that is happening.
Yeah.
And as time has passed, I find this to be bullshit.
Well, there's one thing against him.
ACAB.
I literally was going to think that.
Fucking...
I was thinking that.
Yeah, and he was a Bigfoot investigator,
Yeah.
and he's very right-wing.
Mm.
David Paulides can suck 20 dicks in hell. In fact, I want to fight. I'm going to fight you, David Paulides.
We could take him. He's old now.
I will grab you by the mustache,
Okay.
boy, and I will twirl you around.
So what
Here's
is
why.
books?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I've read like 3 of the Missing 411 books,
Mhm.
2 of which I pirated. Fuck you, David
Or
Paulides.
do you have his background? Like he's a cop who wrote these books?
Yeah, okay, so if you're sitting here going, Lillian, what the fiddle fucks are you babbling about? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what I'm babbling about. Okay, so there are clusters of missing people in our national parks. And they are mysterious. And the national parks won't give any information about these missing persons cases. And they all have signature things in common. And this was discovered David Paulides, former cop in California. I don't know if it was Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, I
I
think.
think it was, though.
Yeah.
And turned Bigfoot researcher.
Mm-hmm.
And then some fucking park rangers took him to the side and said, yeah, the people are going missing and nobody knows the truth. And he was like, I'm going to find out the truth. And the answer is he didn't find out shit.
Dang.
So there are truly a few what I would call really baffling missing persons cases that take place in national parks.
Uh-huh.
I would say there's like 6.
Yeah.
But he keeps pumping out these books.
Well, he did he did Canada. I
in
think
the
he did-
northeast and the
yeah.
northwest and the west and the
Yeah.
south and the urban
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
missing and the 411 and the missing
And the
411
Bigfoot ones. Yeah.
hunters, and there are some that are legit.
Yeah.
But like the missing 411 movie, the first one, they did showcase Dior Coons, right? Which
Uh-huh.
I've covered on our podcast.
Yeah.
His parents fucking killed him.
Yeah, that was the movie, wasn't it?
It was, and oh my God, it was so uncomfortable in the movie because like even the movie was
I
starting.
rented that. I think I paid like
I
$5.
paid my doll hairs
Yeah.
with that, and in the movie, even you could tell like the producers were just like,
Mm.
could maybe we not cover this story because it kind of looks like they killed that child.
Mhm.
And so ever since then, I've been annoyed,
Mhm.
and so I've been going through the books and picking out cases that he just swears up and down, like an alien Bigfoot came and fucked this guy
He's
in
got
the
that
ass and took
cop
him away.
mustache.
I hate his mustache.
He's got the George Norrie mustache.
You know what? It's to hide the fact that bitch ain't got no upper lip.
So hide all that shit you're hiding. Wait, that came out stupid.
Well, that did come out quite dumb.
It's
So-
hide all the shit you're hiding.
hiding all the shit I'm hiding. That's all I know.
I wish we could cut out. No.
I mean, we could with so much effort, and I'm already thinking about going to sleep. So,
Yeah.
if you're like, Lillian, why are you talking this way? I'm on Benadryl.
Wow.
Okay?
Most people
The
get
Hat
tired
Man's
from
right in
that.
the corner. No, I get paradoxical things sometimes. I feel tired, but I feel also strange. But
The Hat Man's coming for you.
I'm going to have sex with him. That's what I'm
Wow.
gonna do.
Wow. We're missing people. We're not talking about that.
Yeah. So after the disappointment that was the Jersey Devil, fuck that.
That was not
cryptid.
disappointing.
What do you mean?
It was a good episode. I liked it.
It was, I think, one of our worst.
I
But
think it was the
anyway,
best.
we're going to take a missing 411 case, and I'm going to explain why it's not magical or aliens or Bigfoot. I know it's usually the opposite of what we do on a Merris Monday, but that's just how much I hate David Paulides. I want to ruin his career
I
and
feel
his
like
life.
you're ruining the spirit of Merris Monday.
I think you need to calm down. I mean, it's creepy.
Okay, yeah, he's creepy because he's a cop, you know.
He looks like he has a van that says free candy on
He
the
does,
side.
yeah.
So this is the case of the disappearance of Mark Hanson. It is in one of the missing 411 books. And no, I don't remember which one, and I don't care.
Yeah.
So our story begins in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The spring break of 1975, and several students from Eastern Kentucky University started a hike along the Appalachian Trail. This trip would end in disaster and an enduring mystery. One student would go home early, one would be mentally scarred for life, and the other would vanish into thin air. See, it sounds like it's going to be
Yeah,
rad.
this sounds rad.
No.
Oh.
Mark Hanson and Ben Fish were several miles into the Appalachian Trail when Mark said he was exhausted and he couldn't carry his backpack anymore. So he dropped it. And then the two men continued on in search of shelter. As the sun went down, it became bitterly cold. And as the sun was setting, Mark sat down on the trail and refused to go any further. Just refused.
Yeah.
Well, Ben was like, dude, we got get up. You can't just sit there. And also, you don't have your sleeping bag or tent or nothing. You left your backpack.
Yeah, you're a dumbass. Like, you're not hiking good.
You're doing this all wrong.
You're doing it all wrong.
And Mark was and Ben was like, if we got to keep moving to stay warm and then like find some shelter. And Mark was like, eat shit, no. And
I
so
should never have brought him.
Oh, I know. So not knowing what else to do, Ben was like, I'm going to carry on. They had a place in mind they wanted to stop for the day. So he's going to see if he couldn't like tough it out and get there. And then he's like, not quite an hour away. And he's like, you know what? I'm hella tired also.
Mm-hmm.
So he made his little tent and he just camped out right on the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Late that night, something woke Ben up.
Oh my God, I'm scared.
And at first, he just thought it was maybe an animal or something.
Yeah.
But it was screaming.
It was fucking Mothman?
No, it was Mark.
What?
He could hear him screaming.
Oh no.
Yeah, but okay, it's late at night. It's never a good idea. You can't hike late at night. That's dumb. It was
Yeah.
also snowing. It was like 18 degrees.
They did this all wrong.
Oh, they fucked this up so hard. And so he was just like, well, I'm sure my buddy will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to sleep. And then he did. Yeah. So he kind of panicked like when he got up the next day.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, maybe he was screaming or maybe I was dreaming. He like couldn't. There is some spookiness to this.
Okay.
And this is the part of the story I find spooky.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Ben just couldn't figure out if he was dreaming, because he had felt what he considered kind of a dreamlike state. He was puzzled why he went back to sleep.
Like lucid dreaming or something?
Yeah, well, if Mark was screaming, he couldn't understand why he just calmly went back to sleep.
I feel like I've had some sleep like that where like I should get up, something, there was a noise, like a bang.
But then I don't.
And I fucking say, fuck it.
I don't think... It's not the same thing as hearing blood-curdling screams of your
Well,
friend.
you might be in a state where you would think, well, that's part of my dream, though.
True, but it's also in weird phenomenon. People will like even see an alien, or they'll like see the Hat Man, and they just think
Like,
okay.
I could convince myself that something scary is just part of a dream.
But
Shut
it's
up.
not that. It's like a hypnosis
Yeah.
type of paralysis thing we've talked about before.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of that. But
Okay.
it's the only real, what I would call
Spooky.
like high strangeness, weirdness in regards to this story.
Okay.
So, of course, fucking Ben goes back to try and find his friend.
Mm-hmm.
Motherfucker's gone. He's gone. Not a trace of him. And he's just not even sure, like, if he went off trail. Can't find any tracks, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like he vanished. And, you know, did he really hear him screaming? Well, to get all to the answers to this, because now we're thinking like he was literally snatched, like
Cougar or something, bear, I don't know.
no, because that would leave blood everywhere,
okay, yeah.
and there's no nothing.
Yeah.
There's no blood, no nothing. So we're gonna backtrack.
Okay.
Let's go back to the beginning. On Sunday, March 9th, 1975, John Chidester, Ben Fish, and Mark Hanson woke up at their campsite in Davenport Gap. This is a place to shelter along the Appalachian Trail that's on the Tennessee and North Carolina border. All three men were from Kentucky and originally had planned to spend a few days camping out and hiking along the trail during spring break. Mark Hanson was a junior in college from Newport, Kentucky. He was active in his church and frequently volunteered for various charitable projects. He enjoyed hiking and camping, and that's all we know about Mark. I mean, this is kind of an old case. We just don't know much about him.
Like the 70s. I wasn't even born yet.
No, it was a few years before the advent of my birth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information. Like I said, there's not a lot of information about him, but one thing was stated many times in the newspaper articles, and that was he was a novice hiker.
Right.
As were the other men in the group.
They all sucked at this.
They fucked this up so bad.
Right.
So they had planned to meet up with a more experienced group of hikers farther down the trail, and then they planned on ending their trip on Tuesday, March 11th.
Okay.
The first leg of the hike was from Davenport Gap to a shelter that was 15 miles away. That is not a fucking joke to walk.
No, that 15 miles, I can't do that.
I can walk a mile in like an hour, like a slow-ass bitch.
That's too many miles. I'm going to drive it.
I'm tired. I'm not doing this shit.
Fucking
Hiking's fucking bullshit, for the record.
the Smoky Mountains? No.
Eat my ass. It's 5,000 feet elevation, by the way.
That's going up. No.
And so from that shelter, they would spend the night, and then from there they would go to the Newfound Gap, which was also 15 miles, and that would be the end of the trip. So it was a total of 30 miles. That's
Jesus, you guys.
It had been suggested that they were meeting up with the other group at the first shelter of Tricorner Knob. For relatively experienced hikers, the whole hike should have taken 2 days, but these were not experienced hikers. Just make sure we know that. March 9th, it was overcast and bitterly cold. At ground level, it was around 40 to 45 degrees, but up in the mountains, it was 25 to 30. Properly equipped, these temperatures would have been doable. However,
it's below freezing.
Yeah, but if you have the right equipment, it's fine. However, while it does seem like the men were prepared for the cold temperatures, they were all of them lacking in endurance that is required to do this hike. 2 miles into the hike, John started to complain that his boots were hurting his feet. And so he's like, you know what? Absolutely fuck this. I'm going home.
Yeah, good for him.
John had the right idea. Absolutely. So he turned around and went back to Davenport Gap. From there, he went to a ranger station. And we don't have a ton of information on him or what he did after this because he just went the fuck home.
He is a wise man.
He is a wise, wise man. Okay, and so Mark and Ben continued on without John. They stopped for lunch. It was here that Mark started complaining of pain in his legs and in his knee. He promised he would go a little further. However, even though he's in pain, he said he'd just push past the pain. 3 hours after having lunch, they arrived at a small shelter where Mark once again whined about his legs hurting. And look, hiking is not a joke. Mark decided he would keep going. They would not stop at this shelter. This is the deadly mistake they make, by the way. If they had stopped at this shelter, they would both, he would have been fine. Mark would not have gotten lost. They could have rested and decided, you know what, this is too hard. Let's turn back, go home. That's not what they did. Mark said he would make the rest of the 7 to 8 mile hike. He would be okay. It began to snow as Mark and Ben continued on. It obscured the path, and it also got really cold. What happens next is kind of a jumbled mess, but after leaving the shelter, Mark became swiftly exhausted and dropped his pack and refused to pick it back up. Ben could not carry both his pack and Mark's. He continued on just a little further, maybe about 20 minutes, until he couldn't go on anymore, and he sat down in the center of the trail. Now, reports do differ, but the details are so close that it's just not important.
Right.
So, Dave Paulides likes to bring this up, that the inconsistencies in the story show that, everyone's a liar and it's a conspiracy. No, it was 1974. Nobody had cell phones or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
no. And most of the information that comes from this case that was weird, like the screaming story, came from a book that was written about the search and rescue for Mark years after the fact.
Yeah.
So take that with the biggest grain of salt on earth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I get you.
So after Mark wouldn't get up, Ben is like begging him. And he was left to make a pretty hard decision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what he should have done, and we can all agree now that they should have made camp together. You don't split up and leave someone alone.
You never split up the party. Like D&D
Never.
teaches you that.
Yes. And so he thinks that since the next shelter is maybe about 5 miles away, he can hike there and get help.
It's a long way.
But he's already exhausted.
Yeah, legs are hurting.
It's already getting dark.
Mom's spaghetti. Yeah.
Mom's fucking spaghetti's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so what he should have done is they should have shared the tent and sleeping bag, and they would have been fine.
Do they spoon?
No, because Mark's missing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You ding dong.
Yeah.
Okay. Serious. This is a serious
I know,
case.
I'm being serious.
It was in 1974, so like, calm down. You know, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
So he made the decision to go on ahead, and it was a bad decision.
Yeah.
Ben spent the night on the trail and later reported he thought he heard Mark screaming.
Yeah.
But he also conceded he might have dreamed the entire thing. He wasn't sure, and all he could hope was that Mark made it until morning. That morning, Monday, March 10th, Ben woke up and immediately turned back to go find Mark. When he arrived where he'd left him the day before, he was gone.
I mean, to be fair, even if he got up while he was screaming, you probably
That could have gotten him too.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he heard him screaming because, again, this is only in one account.
Yeah.
It's not in any official report.
Just make it spookier. That's why they did
It was just to make it spooky and a ranger's like fucking autobiography about this case.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah. No, this bullshit.
Yeah, I totally think it's bullshit. All right, so basically, when he gets there and there's no Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark. Ben returned to the Tri-Corner Knob shelter where he found 2 hikers who agreed to come help him search for Mark.
Mm-hmm.
They traced back their steps and they found Mark's backpack right where he dropped it, and nobody had touched it. So if Mark, like, it was suggested that maybe Mark turned back around and got lost, like he was looking for his backpack.
Yeah.
And I think that is exactly what happened. But we'll get to that. I just want to point that out. The men saw no other trace of Mark and decided to be safe and spend the night in a shelter and go find help in the morning.
Right.
Only good decision made.
Right.
But that's a death sentence for fucking Mark.
Mm-hmm.
It is. In the morning, the men left the Appalachian Trail to go to Cosby Campground, which was, there was like a trail off the Appalachian Trail. They're not like trudging through the wilderness or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where they reported Mark missing to the rangers there, and rangers took this seriously. This rarely happens, so mark that
cool.
down. They responded immediately, but it had already been 48 hours with him out in the elements, with 36 of them spent with no sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Mark didn't have his backpack, and temperatures were well below freezing. They were like 18, 12.
Yeah.
10 inches of snow had fallen since Mark was last seen, and it would have obscured any tracks he would have made.
Right.
Ground and air search began immediately. The weather was not cooperating. Now, this is where Dum Dave Paulides will say, in every one of these cases, the weather gets to where you can't search.
Mm-hmm.
Well, bitch, it's winter up in the mountains.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It's fucking cold and snowy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that weird in this case.
Right.
It's pretty normal. So it became clear immediately that Mark had left the trail because there was no sign of him on the trail. Mm-hmm. Or at any of the shelters along the trail. The Wednesday search started poorly too. Weather had deteriorated. The search was off trail and found no sign of Mark. Thursday saw heavy rains, but the temperatures had raised significantly. All the same, not a single sign of Mark was found. The search went on until Friday as well, and that's when they started checking waterways and abandoned buildings and old airplane crash sites. Mm-hmm. Saturday the 15th, and everybody's spirits are pretty low.
Yeah.
Hopes were dwindling that Mark would be found alive, But Saturday saw 250 volunteer searchers, and air search via helicopter had restarted now that the weather was a little better. There was also a dog team added, but nobody at this point expected to find Mark alive. They expected to find a body.
Mm-hmm.
On Sunday, the search was scaled down. On Monday around 2 p.m., search teams found the frozen body of Mark Hanson.
Mm-hmm.
He was 2 miles off the Appalachian Trail. The man was found sitting upright against a tree. His parka was half open, and his gloves and a boot were in the snow near his body.
Yeah.
So, and Mark's funeral was 2 days later. His autopsy revealed he'd likely died of exposure and hypothermia. It's believed he lived for a full 36 hours after Ben left him.
Yeah.
Now, the official word on this case is that Mark died of exposure and cold temperatures, but there are a few unanswered questions that stupid David pee-pee poo-poo Polides will say is like, oh, here's why it's supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
His gloves was off, his parka was open, and a shoe was off.
It don't mean nothing.
That's paradoxical undressing, you ding-dong.
Yeah.
So here's why you undress when you get really cold. First of all, hypothermia makes you fucking confused. Mm-hmm. You do not know what is going on. You are dying is why. And so your body really takes all its warmth and pulls it to the center of your body to keep your stupid heart beating. So your brain has blood in it. Mm-hmm. This makes the trunk of your body feel hot. Mm-hmm. And so you think you're really hot, you're over hot. You're not, but that's how it feels because you're freezing to death. Mm-hmm. And so you will paradoxically take off some clothes to cool down. It happens in over 30% of hypothermia death victims. Mm-hmm. This isn't like, it's because Dave Polides will say shit like, oh, paradoxical undressing doesn't actually ever happen.
No, that's dumb.
That's dumb. It happens so, it happens so often that like, autopsy technicians and, you know, investigators find it weird when it doesn't. Here's a case where it was weird. The Dyatlov Pass incident. Mm-hmm. They want to say they all died of hypothermia and stuff, an avalanche and whatnot. But there was no paradoxical undressing. There was the opposite. Mm-hmm. They were trying to get more clothes on.
Yeah.
So I just like pointing that out because it's fun to me. The screaming. I'm not sure that this ever happened.
Right.
Ben is no longer with us. Like, he can't tell us, like, hey, man, I made that up, or that was made up for a book, or that never happened, or I wasn't sure if I was dreaming. Also, animals in the woods can sound like people fucking screaming.
Foxes. Yeah.
Foxes. There's also another animal that can really sound like they're fucking...
I know owls can make some crazy sounds.
They make monkey noise sometimes.
Yeah, they do.
We heard that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, if Mark was so fucking exhausted, right,
mm-hmm.
then how did he manage to get up and go off trail? I'm going to tell you how. He's sitting there, and then Ben's gone. Mm-hmm. I say like 20 minutes after Ben's gone, he's like, I done fucked up.
Yeah.
I got to get my backpack. And he thinks it's not that far.
Right.
And so he goes off trail. Then he realizes, fuck, I'm lost. Mm-hmm. Well, I got to keep moving or I'm going to freeze to death. Mm-hmm. And so eventually he kept moving. 2 miles really isn't that much to meander stupidly around.
You could definitely
as an
die
adult.
within 2 miles, yeah.
And he's exhausted. He's stumbled into this kind of waterway. It's a natural waterway, but it was dry at the time. He leans back against a tree. He starts freezing to death. He paradoxically undresses and dies due to exposure. I mean, it's just not that difficult, David fucking Polides.
Right.
What questions? A lot of people want to put like a criminal element blame on Ben. Mm-hmm. Because it's just kind of nonsensical to leave someone behind.
Yeah.
Except both of them likely had hypothermia at this stage. Mm-hmm. And no one's making good decisions.
Yeah.
They were both novice hikers. That means they didn't do this all the time. They didn't have the buddy rule. Or else John wouldn't have gone back on his own.
Yeah, 100%.
That was the first mistake. Everybody should have turned their ass around.
Everyone should have turned around, yeah.
They were not ready for this. They had never really been on a long overnight hike like that before.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Ben killed anyone. In fact, like newspaper articles said the man was like nearly catatonic with like horror and grief when his friend's body was found.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, scarred for life, is that his friend died and he forever blamed himself for his friend's death.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And I hate to say it, but he does have a part to play. He made a very bad decision. He should not have left him behind. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be covering, probably for most of October, I'm going to pick David Paulides' missing 411 cases that I think are actually legit.
Okay.
Because there are some.
Awesome.
There are a few that I consider so fucking freaky, there is literally no rational explanation.
I'm pumped now.
But the reason I picked this one is for anybody interested in the missing 411 stuff, please don't take this cunt's word for it.
Yeah.
This is nowhere in any of this is there weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
The Scream, I guess, but when you just, God, some of his cases fall apart because they're so flimsy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we're going to be believers in the paranormal, and I am, and we want to take it seriously, and I do, I don't like when people grift like this. It hurts the families, and it hurts your case.
Yep.
And so I want to present the ones that I think are actually good and that have been researched by people other than David fucking Fraud Paulides. ACAB, by the way.
ACAB.
You fucker with your ugly, dumb pedo stash. I hate you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he is one. I'm just saying that's the stash of one.
It's the vibe.
Scott got good vibes. The vibes are off.
Vibe's
So,
bad.
Yeah, I'm feeling better. Thanks for asking. A lot of you have, actually. Thanks. I'm not dying. The podcast isn't canceled. Everything's just been a fucking... God. And I know we say this like once every couple of months or even almost every episode, but it just life be that way. Yeah, so, join our Patreon if you're like, I need more cruelty. Well, there's like 600 hours of that shit.
Yeah.
And I don't mean of shit you've already heard. I mean
actual shit. It's good.
It's not even poop.
No.
And join our Discord because, please. I've been quiet, but that's because I've been stressed out and sleepy. But I'm back now. And Merris is on there, and Willow occasionally pops in. And plus, there's just a bunch of really rad people there to talk to all the time. I love all of, like, the people in the Discord. They're so rad and so nice.
Yeah.
We got a place to vent. That's, like, my favorite channel where I can complain.
Yeah.
It's fun. So come say hello.
Yeah.
Also, if you'd like to support this podcast, but you don't want to make a big commitment like Patreon, you can send us money on coffee because we appreciate that shit so much.
Yeah.
Because we have made, at this point, we've been doing this for 4 years now.
Yeah.
3 full years. This is our 4th year. And I've made a lot of content.
Yeah.
Hundreds, probably thousands of hours at this point, I would wager.
Yeah.
And so we do it largely for free. Now, if you want to contribute, that's cool. But hey, if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, thank you so much. We've been getting some new listeners lately, so hello. Welcome. I'm sorry I'm a mess. I've been yelling a lot, but I'm just mad at David Paulides because it was, I thought, a cool thing, and he ruined it. Ruined. So, yes, I'm going to go now. If you're listening on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification bell. Or else, I'll just take a duty in your pillowcase.
Yeah.
Why not make threats now? Goodbye.
Bye.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Willie B.